You are at a place now, I'm just telling you professionally, she desperately needs you, the man who loves her, to intervene on her behalf.
That's my fear. I want to know how I can get professional help for my wife who's struggling with mental illness without having to get law enforcement involved.
Ooh. Paint me a picture here.
So over the last couple of years, there's a lot of behaviors that my wife has experienced in the house and with me that causes cause for concern. Some of them are she's had a lot of weight loss and no appetite. I have witnessed her like hitting at herself, like in her arm, like she's in pain. Something's bothering her. I've seen her hit her face. I've seen bruising on her. She locks the house continuously. There's tape over closet doors. She puts barricades up inside the pantry.
Is she using?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Is she on any sort of
no drugs.
Prescription medication?
The only prescription medication that I recall, and this was about a year ago, is she was taking Topamax for migraines.
Yeah.
And there was lots of cause for concern because of some of her behaviors. My daughter confronted her with it, and I did too as well. And I don't believe she's still taking that, but I do believe it had some impact on her.
Okay. If based on what you're telling me, how old are you guys? How old are you? How old is she?
I'm 53. She's 56.
Okay. And this is all sudden and new. This isn't been going on for 20, 30 years.
Not for 23 years. Me and my daughter have talked about it. She's brought up things in the past growing up that kind of like small indicators that some of this with some tendencies were there with the paranoia and the concern that, that other people were doing things to her, or she's always walked around, scared to death of what other people think about her. But here the last 2 to 3 years, it's gotten worse. And then here recently, it's progressed that I was out of town one weekend for work, and I had my son come and stay out of concern for her safety, for her. And while he was there, he witnessed it firsthand, and he confronted me about calling the police because he felt like he needed to call the police with some of the behaviors.
Okay.
One of the example was there were some lights outside, and she swore up and down it was people stalking the house.
Sure. Okay. So there's and the nerd word is decompensating. So it's you're just watching somebody essentially turn to ash or a pillar of salt right in front of you, right? They're becoming a shell of who they were and descending into, I guess a crass way to say it is descending into madness. They're experiencing a world that objectively doesn't exist, but to them is very, very real.
Correct.
Okay. And I have I've sat with those folks, and I've sat with people, holding their hand, with them clenching me as though there is somebody with a hatchet coming at us, and there's nothing there. And so my compassion for folks in her situation run very, very deep. Okay. I also understand that the perception of, let me say it this way. You as a husband, how long y'all been married? 20, 30 years?
30.
Okay, 30 years. There's a sense that, and this isn't to call you out, this is to give you peace. There's a sense that, these things sometimes happen by degrees. And it's kind of like seeing an old friend from high school that suddenly gained 100 pounds. They don't recognize it, but when you see them, you're like, oh my gosh, right? Or the opposite, they've lost 100 pounds. For them, it was just a couple ounces a month for the last 30 years. And so this might be happening by degrees, and you're just picking up extra weight because it's kind of your life. But your son shows up for a weekend. He's like, whoa, Dad, Mom is not safe.
Right.
So there's that, but there's also, here's the other side. You're not a bad guy. You're not an unattentive husband if your wife is using and you don't know. So I want you to free yourself from, no, I'm confident that's not true. And I want you to put everything on the table right now as a possibility. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So give yourself some peace. If she's somehow got a hold of some medication, some drugs, and she's using and you don't know it, that doesn't make you a bad or unattentive guy. Okay? Sometimes people who struggle with deep, profound paranoia are extraordinary at hiding. Because in their souls, they have to, because nobody else knows what's going on. Okay. So I tell you that to tell you. You are at a place now, I'm just telling you professionally, she desperately needs you, the man who loves her, to intervene on her behalf. And what that looks like is a direct conversation. This ends today. You're going to go. You can come with me, or someone's going to come pick you up. You get to choose, but you're going today for a psych eval.
Okay.
And that's an end of a conversation. And it has to be done in a way, and sometimes people can do it by themselves. So I've done it for people, right? When they think, no, I can manipulate my husband, I can manipulate my wife, and I show up to the house, and I'm like, yeah, you're manipulating me because I don't care. I don't have a stake in this, but you are going. Or sometimes people get their family together. You've probably seen some of those intervention kind of shows, but it's basically a declaration. This ends today.
Okay.
Here's the, depending on what state you're in and depending on any number of other factors, sometimes people can walk in and the standard, the standard for a state to take away somebody's civil rights, to say you are no longer in control of your life, we are. That standard should be and is very, very high.
Okay.
So sometimes adults will get like committed. They'll be in an institution for 3 or 4 days, and then it will occur to them, I can just leave. I'm an adult. And often they're right.
So what does that look like when she's still holding a job and has for the last couple years without incident?
I can
and that's
almost
the confusing part. That's the confusing part.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what they're dealing with at work either.
Well, I know she's a healthcare professional.
Okay.
So she helps others at a assisted living, nursing home, caretaker, and has for her entire career. And that's the confusion. And my daughter is also a healthcare professional as well. And we've had the same conversation is she still holds a job. She still goes to work every day and everything seems fine. But as soon as she comes home, it's like she does all the things that I'm describing. And that's where I struggle.
Well, I would say 2 things. Number one, that's yet one more data point that she may be, to put it nicely, borrowing from a pharmaceutical cabinet. If she's got access to other people's pharmaceutical drugs, and you're watching her rapidly change in front of you. Because one of the things I want to know if I'm doing an assessment on somebody is, do they have access? And if they're a healthcare professional, the answer is undoubtedly yes.
Yes, correct.
That's number one. Number two, people who struggle from extreme paranoia sometimes are experts in compartmentalization because they think they're running a game on everybody else. Not a game, but they're having to survive. So think of it like a Sherlock Holmes episode where he has to dress up and go and play a part.
Right.
And so it can go on for years. And here's the other thing I would tell you. Without a proper clinical assessment, you at home trying to armchair quarterback it, you're watching her get worse in front of you.
That's my fear, is it's getting worse. And in all honesty, I believe she thinks I'm the enemy.
That's great.
Makes sense.
That is okay. And when you tell her you have to go see somebody, you've got to go get a clinical assessment because I'm losing my wife, you will be the devil incarnate. And you have to love her enough to walk through those hot coals.
That's my fear.
Here's the other thing, brother. What's the other side of it?
Well, that scares me too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a no-win because it's what's worse. I mean,
choose your heart. Can I be real crass with you?
Yeah.
Or not crass, just real direct. You've got to choose your heart. You're going to choose for a season to have your wife, who is not well, think she hates you. She doesn't. But to confirm, when you think everyone's out to get you and you find out somebody else is noticing your behaviors, it just confirms it. It makes it worse. It's like gasoline on a fire.
Right.
Right? Except, et tu, Brute, like, not you too, right? Not like you're my husband. You don't see this? And so, yes, expect an amplification of this 100-fold, and it all to be channeled on you. The other side of it is, often when somebody is unspooling like this, they know it. They feel it. And it often ends with loved ones planning a funeral.
That's the scary part, but I do know that living like this now is not sustainable.
Correct. And so anytime I'm talking to somebody, I'm always looking at trend lines. Everybody has bad weekends, bad days, bad whatever. That's fine. This is something that is on a negative trend line. You stepped out and had a third party show up, and your son went, "Oh my Lord, we got to get her some help." So unless your son is a hypochondriac, and I say that in the funny way, not in the clinical way, but like he's over dramatic and you know your kid. But It sounds like when he said it, you were like, I know, you're right.
Well, I know he's right, and he did confront her with that, and she immediately replied, "I don't have a mental problem. I don't need mental help." But we all, me, him, and my daughter, all believe that she needs something.
Okay, so I would not use the word mental help. I would have all three of you. If are they adult kids?
Adult kids. Great. They don't live at home, but we all live in different areas.
Perfect. I think you'll all three sit down and say, "We love you, and we know that you're not well, and everything about you tells us that you're terrified and you're scared of your own home and your own skin. We want you to go talk to somebody." "I'm fine. I'm not going to do that." Well, here's the deal. Today you go, and I'm willing to risk you being upset with me and have you involuntarily committed, or I'll go with you and we'll go get you checked in.
So what does that look like? Do I just take her to the hospital?
If you
or prearrange it?
Yeah, you prearrange it, and you can go to a inpatient where they can do a 48-hour or 72-hour hold. If she signs up for it, then that's a whole other track. But you'll have to wait. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait until something bad happens if you're gonna have her involuntarily committed. You have to wait till she flies off the handle or starts banging on stuff or hitting herself or stuff like that, because that threshold is very, very high.
Right.
Because they don't want old grouchy husbands who thinks their wife is annoying in the middle of a football game to get committed, right? So that line is very high.
Yeah, and I've struggled with that too, because I've told my son if she ever pulls off one of these again that I would do that. And she disappears into the back room or to the bathroom and starts to crying and screaming and yelling and like she's in pain or something. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's the right time to do it, because 20 minutes later she's back to normal, it seems like, for a little bit, and then she'll lay on the couch for 30, 45 minutes and
that's right. It's exhausting.
Something happens
it's exhausting.
Correct. Yeah. And it just wears me out. And I know, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, is she been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's tied to it or not, but I think sometimes that causes some pain. And that pain, in her mind, it's being caused by someone.
Right, but fibromyalgia is often almost universally. It's been a minute since I read the latest, but it's almost universally. It's rarely diagnosed in somebody that doesn't have existing mental health disorders.
Right.
Does that make sense? And I'm sure there's a chicken or egg component to it, but chronic pain often is highly comorbid with other more significant challenges. It's your body's way of saying, "I'm trying to get your attention. We're not okay.
Right.
We're not safe."
Okay.
And it could be relationship challenges. It could be work challenge. It could be any number of things going on.
Right.
But I think it's sitting down saying, the time has come. I love you enough to risk you not liking me, being mad at me, hating me, whatever you think you're going to say, but you got to go get some help. Do you have any, and I say this very delicately, do you have anybody at her workplace where you could sit down and talk?
I do not.
Okay. I would be stunned if they don't know something's up.
She's done well with this one. Now, I know previous to this one, there was a couple instances in previous work where, and she wouldn't tell me everything, where she left the work. she actually got in a leadership position, and then it seemed like it was going south. A lot of the paranoia stuff that she would bring up, but then all of a sudden she left, took another position, and then within a month, she was at home for a couple of weeks, and then she came back and told me there were some differences, and then she left and then got this one, and she's had this one for about a year and a half.
Okay. My guess is it's unspooling fast too.
Okay.
All we're doing is following patterns and trends here. I think you want to validate her lived experience. I don't want you to say, I don't think you're hurting. I don't think you're scared. All those are very, very real. I think you use I words a lot. I can't sit here as your husband of 30 years and listen to you go in the bathroom and scream and then collapse. I, as your husband of 30 years, I, as your son, cannot listen to you hitting yourself in the face, hitting yourself on the arms, screaming, yelling. I can't be here to watch you falling apart like this and hurting like this. I'm going to call, and sometimes it's threatening. I'm going to call somebody and they're going to come pick you up, or we're going to get in the car, we're going to go down and get the help you need. I don't think you're crazy, but I think you are hurting so bad. It's cruel of me to let this continue to go on like this. I'm just telling you, Rick, once you get on that roller coaster, it is indeed a roller coaster. And we are playing a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year game even. You're going to risk not being liked. You're going to risk her saying evil and awful things to you. You're going to risk her writhing and having no place for that pain to go. And so it gets dumped on you. That's for sickness and health, for better and worse. I hate that, but it is. But I promise you, it's better than planning a funeral. I promise you. Thanks for the call, my brother. Thanks for the call. You call anytime, and I'm happy to talk to her too, if I can be an encouragement to her.